I'd love to see your envious face, but I'm not that cruel, so I'll let it be. It'd probably be awkward for you to see me, so why don't you hide in the bathroom or something? She laughed noisily over the phone, mocking me. I detest this woman more than anyone in the world, no, in the universe. 13 years ago, she stole my husband from me. I'd like to cut ties, but that's definitely difficult to do, because sadly, this woman is my biological sister. I held the phone to my ear after a while, and let out a small chuckle after she hung up on me. My name is Ruth, a 37-year-old divorcee. My marriage fell apart in just 6 months, and it's all because of my villainous sister. I have an identical twin sister named Rachel. Even our longtime friends mistake us for each other because we look so much alike. However, contrary to our appearance, our personalities are completely different. I'm more of the quiet type, while Rachel is active and tends to take charge of things. I was the better one in academics, while Rachel excelled in sports. Rachel's the type who blurts out whatever she's thinking. How can you wear such unstylish clothes? People are going to think I'm not stylish either since we're twins. That'll suck. As you can see, we don't get along. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just at home, but Rachel always brought trouble. Back in our school days, I often got harassed by girls from other schools on my way home. Hey, stop hitting on my boyfriend! Of course, I didn't even know them. Not again, Rachel. Whenever Rachel found someone she was interested in, she wouldn't hesitate to snatch him away, even if he already had a girlfriend. I blame the guys too, but Rachel was worse. And I, being mistaken for her, am a victim too. Moreover, she seems to lose interest once she gets the guy, sometimes breaking up in as short as a week. It's unbelievable. Rachel, you need to stop this nonsense. Have you ever thought about how the other girls feel, and that I'm also suffering too? To my words, she responded, an unattractive woman's jealousy is scary. Anyway, your guy, John, right? He's so dull. I doubt he'll cheat on you. Don't worry, I have no interest in him. He's not hot at all. And talked down on my boyfriend. This man named John is the despicable ex-husband who dumped me without a second thought 13 years ago. We got close because we went to the same tutoring center. He was rather quiet and made me feel at ease. His mother was a fortune teller and was well known for her accurate readings. She even ran a fortune-telling house. We graduated from the same university and decided to get married 2 years later. I had thought I would spend my life with this man, but 6 months after our marriage, my ex-husband, John, placed the divorce papers in front of me and said, "Please divorce me, I can't take it anymore, and I'm sure you know why." Sitting next to him was my sister, Rachel, with a smug look on her face. Taken by surprise, I stammered, "Huh? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Did I do something? I don't remember doing anything wrong." At my words, John banged his fist on the desk and shouted, "Really? How do you have the audacity? You've been cheating on me. Can you still deny it after seeing this?" On the desk were a few pictures showing a man and a woman entering a hotel together. But to me, it looked like I was being shown pictures of my sister Rachel, going into a hotel with some man I didn't know. I didn't understand what my ex-husband was saying at all. The man in the photo must have been just another one of Rachel's flings. No, this is Rachel, it's not me." At that moment, Rachel burst into tears and sobbed, "Ruth, let's stop this. I can't stand lying to John anymore." Then John said to my sister, "Rachel, I'm okay. You're so kind. Thank you." What am I looking at here? John glared at me and started to spew a fabricated story that was simply unimaginable. According to him, I had been cheating, and to avoid being caught, I was constantly borrowing clothes from my sister, spending my spare time at a hotel with my lover, and that I was a terrible woman. John had completely believed this ridiculous story that he'd heard from my sister. "I heard from Rachel that you've always had a bad track record with men. Even when we were dating, you were playing around with several men." I responded to my furious ex-husband, "Are you seriously saying that, John? You've been with me for several years, and you believe a story from my sister, who you've only known for half a year? Are you sane? Are you an idiot?" Perhaps he didn't like my calm response because all he could do was glare at me. And to my surprise, Rachel had the nerve to hit on John. You may have the same face, but your personalities are completely different. You're not charming at all. Rachel always listens to my complaints with a smile. She's so patient. I might have married the wrong sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Rachel continued to fake her tears, but I could see her grin. Rachel was always a player when it came to men, since she was a student, but ever since she started working, she had changed the type of men she targeted. She now prioritized social status and money over looks, and John, my ex-husband, who worked at a major corporation and came from a moderately wealthy family, was a perfect target. She must have set her eyes on him from the time I introduced him at our wedding. My ex-husband had been completely fooled by my sister's poor acting. I never thought my ex-husband that I'd been with for so long could be this naive, and I could feel my feelings towards him fade away rapidly. "You two are despicable. Do as you please, but never show your face in front of me again." I felt tears welling up, but I managed to hold them back. I filled out the divorce papers on the spot and threw them at the two of them. Knowing my cunning sister, she and John probably hadn't started a physical relationship yet. Blaming compensation seems tough. Still, if it meant those two would disappear from my life, I didn't care about the money anymore. When I returned to my parents' house after that, my parents were furious at my sister's behavior and disowned her. When asked about her reaction, she said, "Oh, really? I don't care, but if you're having money trouble, don't come begging to me, okay? Bye then," making light of even her own parents. I found out from a friend that my ex-husband and my sister got married just 3 months later. I was so stunned I couldn't even cry. I felt nothing at all. For 13 years since then, I haven't seen my sister and her husband. But one day, I got a call from a public phone on my cell phone. I always answer calls for work, so I answered and heard, "Hello, Ruth?" I immediately recognized the voice on the other end of the phone. "I don't know how you have the nerve to call me, Rachel." At my words, Rachel chuckled and said, "Are you still holding a grudge? You're always so gloomy, Ruth. But whatever, I have a favor to ask." Without showing any remorse for what happened, my sister continued, "I'm pregnant. Oh, of course, the father is John, who you loved so much, haha. So I wanted to let my parents know about their first grandchild. They won't listen to me, so you tell them for me." She had the audacity to command me like that, so I retorted, "What are you so cheery about when you've been disowned?" But she just laughed it off. "How many years do you think it's been? 13 years. I think you're the only one who still holds a grudge. You're probably still living alone at our parents' house, am I right? I'm saying that I'll be the one to give them a grandchild instead of you." She's always been the best at irritating people. "I'd love to see your envious face, but I'll spare you because it's too pathetic. It'll be awkward when you see me, so why don't you hide in the bathroom or something, haha," she said as she laughed out loud while I remained silent. Then she hung up abruptly after saying she would come over on the weekend. I kept the phone to my ear for a while after the call ended and chuckled. That weekend, when I was relaxing in the backyard, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw a blocked number. It was probably my sister. I answered the phone, annoyed. "Hey, unblock me already." I snapped back. "What's wrong with blocking someone I don't want to receive calls from? That's what call blocking is for. Oh, maybe you don't understand because you're stupid. Ha ha." I laughed sarcastically. I heard something break. Perhaps she was irritated. "I've come all this way. Why is nobody home? I told you I'd come today, didn't I?" "Huh? You were serious? I thought you were joking. Besides, you hung up before I could tell you. I don't live there anymore." "What?" Judging by my younger sister's enraged and slightly shaky voice, it seems she was standing in front of the house we used to live in. However, none of us live there anymore. She was making so much noise and chaos that it seemed likely to cause a nuisance to the neighbors, so I gave her my current address and hung up the phone. After waiting for about an hour, the doorbell rang. There stood a sullen-faced Rachel and John, my ex-husband. The first thing she blurted out was, "You've got some nerve, and what is this place? Why on earth would someone like you be living in such a nice apartment?" She glared at me, her eyes bloodshot with anger. It's no surprise my sister was shocked. This place is relatively new and located in a good area. The rent isn't cheap either. While it may not be a luxury high-rise, it's a pretty decent property. Ignoring the worked-up Rachel, I told them, The neighbors won't like all this noise. Why don't you come inside? Upon showing her into the room, she seemed taken aback by its size. Seeing her frustrated face, I couldn't help but smirk. Our mother, who I live with, was sitting on the couch, silently observing my sister. Well, you said you had something to discuss. I don't mind at all, but if I'm in the way, should I hide in the bathroom or something? I remarked sarcastically. Never mind, I'm good, Rachel snapped back at me. Rachel moved closer to her mother and nervously said, Hi, Mom. Long time no see. I'm pregnant. That's why today we wanted to discuss if it's possible for John and I to stay here for a while. At my sister's audacious request, I nearly burst into laughter, blurting out, Wait, you want me to live with you guys? No way. Have you forgotten what you did to me in the past? Absolutely not. Cutting me off, Rachel said, Ruth, just shut up. This house is still under Dad's name, right? You can't even get remarried and you're still leeching off our parents. How pathetic for a single woman like you. Then Rachel added, Great job taking care of our folks. From now on, John and I will live here and take care of them, so can you leave? Oh, and where's Dad? Is he at work? After seeing my sister speaking with a smug grin, I had reached my limit. However, it was our mother who spoke up first, after listening to her quietly. Dad's gone. He passed away. Mom only muttered those few words. My parents were very serious people and had always apologized to me about my divorce 13 years ago, despite it all being Rachel's fault. My father especially used to say, I should have. Maybe it was my fault for not raising her better. I'm sorry, Ruth. I'm really sorry. He became increasingly depressed to the point where he found it hard to continue working. At that time, both of my parents were in their early 50s, and we were surviving on my income and Mom's part-time job. A while later, my father was diagnosed with cancer and passed away 10 years ago. Just before he died, he said, Don't tell Rachel anything. I don't think I'll make it to heaven if she comes to my funeral. Just as he said, Mom and I didn't contact my sister, Rachel. We moved into this house about 5 years ago. It was because Mom had injured her leg due to overworking. We considered renovating our old house, but it was built at the top of a hill, and we thought it would be too hard for Mom to walk up the hill. Since we started living in this accessible home, Mom said her legs have been feeling much better. I tried to speak calmly, but the thought of the late Dad made me want to burst out crying. It must have been the same for Mom, as there were tears in her eyes. However, Rachel's reaction to my words was, in a sense, predictable. Too little, too late. Besides, it's not my fault Dad got sick. In fact, you're living in such a nice place now because of Dad's inheritance, right? That's not fair. What about my share? Didn't I have the right to inherit? She blurted out such nonsense. Without missing a beat, Mom shot back. Inheritance? There's no such thing. You only came to us when you were in trouble for doing stupid things before your marriage. How many times do you think we paid alimony because you messed around with a married man? Live with you? Never. You must be joking. Don't be ridiculous. It was the first time both Rachel and I had seen Mom so enraged. Sensing the tension, Rachel fell silent. Then John, who had been quiet like a puppet until now, said, Rachel, you've been deceiving me, haven't you? Ever since I married you, my life's been a mess. You're a reckless spender. You don't do any housework. I had the opportunity to meet some guys who graduated from the same high school as you, and they all said I was blind to marry you. I nearly burst out laughing at my ex-husband's words. He's quite something to have put up with her for 13 years. Moreover, when he approached me, he said, Ruth, I've been regretting our divorce. Do you want to start over here? Let's let bygones be bygones. When he tried to touch me softly, I felt a chill run down my spine. No way, please. Let bygones be bygones? Who does he think he is? Is he stupid? It's not his place to say that. Just as I was about to dodge him, the door to the next room burst open. Could you not touch her with your dirty hands, please? A man suddenly appeared, and both were taken aback. Ignoring Rachel, who murmured, Who is he? I said, I told you to stay hidden because I didn't want to involve you. At my words, he replied, I couldn't stand it when he tried to touch you, Ruth. Besides, I think having a third party will help the discussion, don't you think? Okay. This is my husband, Alex, and... Tony, come here. This is our son, Tony. He's 8 years old." I called out to our son, Tony, who was peeping out from behind the door. Perhaps he had heard some of the argument. He was glaring at Rachel and her husband. "Huh? You're remarried? Unbelievable. Why?" My sister Rachel was more surprised than anyone that I had a husband and a son. My ex-husband John was just as shocked, gaping like a fish out of water. "What do you mean, why? How many years do you think it's been? It's been 13 years. 13 years. Despite all that time passing, you guys haven't changed one bit, which is surprising. Well, you do look like you've aged quite a bit, though." At my somewhat sarcastic words, their faces turned bright red. I met my current husband Alex shortly after my father passed away. We were colleagues for a while, and one day he asked me out. When I rejected him saying that I was a divorcee, he responded, "Does being divorced mean you can't remarry?" and asked me out once more. We got married a year later, and our son Tony was born the following year. Alex treats my mother very well, doesn't mind us all living together, and my in-laws, who already live with Alex's brother and his wife, have reassured me. "We're glad you're here for Alex." The one who proposed moving to our current house was Alex, who was concerned about my mother's mobility. I turned to the two shocked individuals. "My mother and I are living our lives here. Can you not disrupt? And Rachel, you said you were pregnant. How many months along are you?" From their flustered responses to my question, I gathered that Rachel was probably lying about being pregnant. I was only married to John for 6 months, and I never got pregnant. That was the reason my former mother-in-law used to make snide comments. But if Rachel isn't pregnant, it means that's probably the case. Rachel seems to get along with the bad-natured mother-in-law. Unable to stand the harsh glares from my family, the two hastily left our house. "I mean, I had heard stories, but is she really your sister? She does look like you, but her character—" "Anyway, it's settled for now," Alex said with a smile, to which I gave a bitter smile. Really?" That evening, the doorbell rang continuously. Looking at the monitor, I sighed. They came after all. When I opened the door, there stood Rachel and John with pale faces. We need help. Can you lend us some money?" As they knelt down begging, my husband looked puzzled, but my mother and I felt differently. During the day, while waiting for a call from Rachel, Mom received a call from a certain individual. It was a friend of my deceased father who currently rents our old home. Him and his family are living there right now. "When I came back to the house, I found the flower beds in the garden ravaged and the windows cracked." The security footage clearly showed a man and a woman, with the infuriated woman stomping on the flower beds and hurling stones at the window. Of course, it was my enraged sister Rachel, on a phone call with me. When Mom gave Rachel's contact info to Dad's friend, she was furious to learn that this was the daughter who had tormented our dear father for years. It seems that in the damaged garden there were rare flowers that were difficult to grow, and they'd asked for compensation. They seemed to be struggling financially to the point of having difficulty with housing, so I expected them to turn up again, but I never thought they'd showed up that very day. I must admit, I was impressed by their audacity. "I can give you some money, but there's one condition," I said. As I watched them trudge home with slumped shoulders, I couldn't help but laugh and think, "Serves you right." In their hand was a written pledge I had just made them sign. I had made them write in the pledge that they would never approach me again, in return for me taking responsibility for this incident. But Rachel is still my sister by blood. It's hard to completely cut ties with her. There may come a time when she'll use the power of the authorities to approach me. When that time comes, I'm prepared to fight, using the audio recordings I secretly made 13 years ago, and this time as evidence. Because, you see, I have no intention of forgiving my sister and her husband any time at all. Later, a friend told me that my ex-husband had immediately resigned from the big corporation after our divorce, and started working as a staff member in a fortune-telling establishment run by my former mother-in-law. Because they were family, he was paid a high salary, and he and my sister seemed to have been living a life of luxury. However, a few months ago, my former mother-in-law suddenly passed away from illness, and my ex-husband, who had no talent for fortune-telling, took over as her successor, but the establishment quickly closed down. In their desperation, the couple claimed, "This is a bracelet that our late mother lovingly made." They targeted the people who had faith in my former mother-in-law. However, a whistleblower exposed their lies and the victims formed a group. The victims began flocking to the establishment every day, and my sister, who no longer had a place to live and work, came to ask for my help. I was so irritated by their audacity. However, seeing that the police have started moving, it's probably only a matter of time before the two of them are held accountable for their crimes. After that, we moved again. The reason was my husband Alex's job transfer. Can I really come along? Mom asked apologetically, to which Alex, my husband, responded with a chuckle. What are you talking about? You're an important part of our family, Mother. Even if you resist, I'll carry you over my shoulder and take you along, okay? Upon hearing Alex's light-hearted joke, Mom let out tears of gratitude. Grandma, you're crying again. Here, have a Kleenex. Observing his emotional grandmother, Tony was concerned but still smiled. And as I watched my family, I felt a wave of gratitude for the happiness I felt.